Hey yo, welcome to our channel today. I'm going to call my soon-to-be ex-wife, Maddie. She's 48 and I'm 49, and we have one adult child, a son who's 24. I'd assume we had a great marriage and thought Maddie was my best friend, someone I could trust with my life. We got along really well and never had any significant arguments. Sure, we had our minor disagreements along the way, but we always worked through them and never went to bed mad. In bed is where we really clicked, as we both are very adventurous and have extremely high libidos. We like doing everything and kept our relationship fresh by going on dates, taking romantic vacations, and making time for bedroom fun. Believe it or not, we still did it in the car or in the outdoors when we had the opportunity. I know this sounds immature, but that's how much we enjoyed each other. I was very happy in our marriage and believed she was too. I'll now explain how I found out. Did I find a racy email or text between her and her paramour? No. Did I catch them in the act? No. I found out through her lover's ex-girlfriend, who I'll call Sarah. Sarah found me on LinkedIn and sent me an email message asking to talk. When we spoke, I didn't know what to make of what she was telling me. At first, I thought it was some sort of prank that Maddie was planning on me. That was until Sarah sent me a series of pictures and a video of them in action. Then reality hit me. Seeing Maddie doing all the most intimate things with a strange guy shattered my soul. I'll never be able to get those images out of my head, nor will I ever be able to forgive her. To me, she has committed the most egregious marriage violation imaginable, from which there is no coming back. Now for background on how the affair started. Maddie's corporate office is in New York City, and she travels there a couple of times a year for meetings. Her company likes to have these meetings during the first part of the week, so she normally flies out Sunday afternoon and comes back Tuesday evening. This has been the routine ever since she's worked for this company. When there, she always stays at one of the hotels within walking distance of the office. It was at one such hotel where she met her boy Toy, a guy 15 years her junior who worked as a bartender. According to Sarah, her ex told her they just clicked and spontaneously hooked up one night 3 years ago. After that, they continued these biannual hookups for 2 years until the affair ended last year. According to Sarah, he told her they were only together 5 times, and all the encounters occurred on Sunday evenings in Maddie's hotel room. He swore they never kissed, and he always wore a condom. Yeah, right. Sarah said she discovered the affair 6 months after it ended after finding the graphic messages and pictures on his old smartphone. She confronted him, he confessed, and she kicked him out. Not being able to afford a place of his own in Manhattan, he was forced to quit his bartending job and move back out on Long Island. I asked Sarah why she waited so long to contact me. She said she never had any intentions of telling me, but her new boyfriend convinced her to do it. According to her, he had been cheated on and loathes people who cheat. He told her she had to tell me, so that's why she did. I asked if she knew why the affair ended. She said her ex said Maddie eventually broke it off because she told him she loved me. After learning all this, I took time to mourn and determine my next move. After giving it much thought, I decided to divorce Maddie. While I still love her, I will never trust her again and will always think of her and the loser bartender. I've also decided not to confront her and plan, just to blindside her with divorce papers. I don't want to give her a chance to explain herself or listen to her excuses and apologies. I want to make the day she's served so dramatic that she feels worse than I felt when I found out about her affair. In the meantime, I'm going to act like everything is normal and play nice, extra nice. My situation is proof this kind of thing can happen to anyone, even after 27 years. I never dreamed I'd be one of those hurt people telling their personal story to the world, but here I am. My parting words of wisdom for the married guys out there is to never get too comfortable with your spouse and stay vigilant. Be alert at all times, my friends. Marriages are built on trust. If your spouse betrays that trust, then they're not worthy of keeping. The day the divorce papers are ready, I plan to move my belongings into storage, then have her served at work. When she calls me, I'll tell her I've known about everything for weeks and send her one of the graphic pictures Sarah sent to me to prove it. Every time she calls or texts me again after that, I'll send her another picture, then another. I'll then let our families know I'm divorcing her and why. Right now, I feel good about my decision and can't wait for the day when I can destroy her life, just like she's destroyed mine. After things play out, I'll come back to provide an update. Now for the first update. Damn it, why don't things ever go according to plan? The day came to serve Maddie, and things were falling into place. I had all my stuff moved out in the morning, and that afternoon a courier made the special delivery to her office. Maddie was served as expected. She lost her mind and immediately called me, and I answered. I told her I knew about every detail about her affair with her boy toy bartender and had filed for divorce. She begged me to let her explain. I told her I had already moved out and she should get an attorney, then disconnected the call. As predicted, she started calling me, and I sent her the first photo. With each additional attempt she made, I sent her another. At that point, everything was going as planned. That evening, I called my son and told him. He was surprised and upset, as you would expect. He asked me if there was any chance of working things out, and I told him no, not after what she had done. I told him, son, never stay with a cheater. After we finished talking, I was about to call my parents when my mom called and said Maddie just left their house. She was there frantically looking for me. While there, she confessed everything to my parents and said she has been in counseling since breaking off the affair last year. She told them she's been diagnosed with sex addiction. That's right, folks. She claims her cheating was all due to a mental addiction she has, where she cannot resist the temptation of sex. Can you believe this? I then headed over to my parents' house to talk with them. To my frustration, they'd both tried talking me out of divorcing Maddie. They weren't condoning what she did, but said it says a lot that she broke off the affair on her own and has been in treatment ever since. My mom was especially vocal, but Dad also tried to soften me up. I told them a man should never stay with a cheater, and I was shocked and disappointed by their reaction. I told them the whole addiction thing is nothing more than an excuse for cheating. To me, I believe in the saying, if you do the crime, you must do the time. The ultimate time or penalty for marital cheating is to divorce, and that's what I'm going to do. Before I left, my parents told me they will support whatever decision I make, but asked that I think about it. I told them I already had and left. When I got back to the apartment I rented, I called Maddie's dad to tell them I was coming over to talk. He told me Maddie was just there, and she told them everything, just as she had done with my parents. He said he doesn't believe the whole addiction thing either, but asked if I would take some time before I threw in the towel. We talked more, and I didn't promise anything, but I said I'd think about it. I'm very close with her parents, so divorcing will mean losing them too, which will be difficult. That night, Maddie tried calling me several times, but I didn't answer. Saturday morning, my son called and told me his mother called him last night too and confessed to everything. I have to give her credit for that. She has taken full responsibility for her actions and has confessed to our entire family. My son told me he was thoroughly disgusted with his mother and fully supports me. He said he knows I'll be getting a lot of pressure from his grandparents and said he will support whatever I decide to do. He told me if his current girlfriend ever does something like this to him, he'll break up with her on the spot. So that's where things are now. I'm kind of in a temporary holding pattern. While I want nothing more than to fast-track divorcing my wife, I also don't want our families to think less of me for rushing things. Has anyone on here been in a situation like this? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you would do in this situation. Now for the second update. I've read all your comments and appreciate the advice, even from those of you I disagree with. Let me first say I'm still moving forward with the divorce, but I have agreed to meet with my soon-to-be ex-wife to clear the air, so to speak. I'm going to give her 60 minutes to say her piece, and that's it. My attorney strongly suggests I not do so, but insisted if I do, we meet at his office and the meeting be recorded. I countered his recommendation and suggested I meet her at a neutral location with witnesses and record the meeting. He said this was okay, but told me to be very careful with what I say and do, as he's seen these things backfire on the betrayed spouse. I've set the meeting up for next Tuesday at her parents' house. My son will be with me and is going to record it using his tripod gimbal. He, along with my in-laws and my mom, will be in the next room. My dad can't be there because he has a doctor's appointment at that time. I'm meeting with her just to check the box that I at least met with her to satisfy my parents and in-laws. I'll update here after I speak with Maddie. Now for the third update. We had the meeting, and it went better than I expected, but it was difficult for me. I let her speak uninterrupted. The only thing I asked is that she not use the sex addiction thing as an excuse, and she agreed she wouldn't. She started off telling me how much she loves me and misses me, and that what she did was wrong, stupid, and it meant nothing, all the things that you would expect her to say. She looked at me for a response, and I just told her okay and gave her a look as if to say, "Is there more?" She went on to say that she came to her senses last year after continuing the affair for 2 years. Since that time, she has put herself into therapy. She said she kept all this from me for obvious reasons, as she didn't want to lose me. Maddie said therapy has really helped her, and that her therapist felt she had now worked through the mental drivers that made her cheat. I asked if her therapist felt this was just a temporary thing. Maddie said yes. I then asked her what happens when the next 30-year-old bartender comes along. She just looked at me and started crying. I told her she better continue, as the clock was running. She then transitioned into asking me if I had been happy with her and if there was anything more she could have done for me throughout our marriage. I told her I was very happy before this, and yes, there were things she could have done. The most important things being trustworthy and loyal. Maddie said she was, as she loved only me. I gave her a side-eye look and laughed in her face. She then tried explaining herself, which didn't go well. She said she only cheated when she was away and therefore never neglected me. She went on to say that because they never kissed and he wore condoms, that made a difference somehow. Now mind you, she's sitting there telling me this like I'm supposed to be impressed or something. I asked her to listen to what she was saying, as she sounded completely ridiculous. She said she wasn't defending what she did, only trying to explain her rationale. I asked her why she'd do it if she was so happy. She said she was just taken away with the idea of a young, handsome guy being interested in her physically. She said even though I made her feel beautiful, she felt like she was no longer attractive. Now by this time, 45 minutes had passed, and I told her she had 15 minutes left to give me her elevator speech. She told me if I gave her another chance, we could go right back to where we were before. I again told her that was impossible, as I could never trust her and will always imagine her with her boy toy every time I look at her. She then suggested a one-sided open relationship as an option. She said I could do whatever I wanted with whoever I wanted, and she remained faithful to me. I quickly shot that down and told her I wasn't like her. This made her cry, and she spent the rest of the time begging me to take her back. I just let her cry and beg, not saying a word. When the hour was up, I got up, picked up the gimbal with my son's phone attached, and walked out of the room. Before I left, I had my son send me the video via the Dropbox app, and I left. Maddie sent me a text later that evening, thanking me for meeting with her, but I never replied. Now that I checked that box, I plan on calling my attorney in the morning and telling him to fast-track the divorce process. Now for the final update. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry for not providing an update sooner, but I obviously had a lot going on. Our divorce was finalized last Wednesday. We split everything 50-50, and she decided to stay in our family home and buy out my portion of the equity. According to, she did this as she believes one day we will reunite and live together there once again. As for the divorce process, it was very emotional and mentally taxing for me. As time went on, my resolve started getting shaky, and I thought many times of just calling it off and getting back with Maddie. But I knew if I did, I'd end up being miserable. Complicating matters further, when we went in for our first hearing, the judge ordered 60 days worth of counseling for us. 60 days. She told our attorneys that we had to complete the sessions before she'd hear the case. I asked my attorney if she had the authority to demand this, and he said she does, and there wasn't much we could do about it. He cautioned me not to protest too loudly or file any type of challenge, stating doing so could work to my detriment, as the judge may hold this against me. So, I suffered through 16 sessions. It was a painful and worthless process, as far as I was concerned. Not so much with Maddie, but with the therapist. She seemed to put all the attention and blame on me. I had to remind her a few times that I wasn't the one who cheated here. Eventually, after feeling browbeaten for several sessions, I came up with a strategy to get her off my back. I told her that I viewed Maddie as my worst enemy. She asked me why I would say that, and I explained that no one has ever betrayed me like she has. I said no one in my family, none of my friends, none of my coworkers. The only person who has was Maddie, and therefore I have no trust in her, and staying married was out of the question. The therapist didn't have a good comeback for this, so I used it in every session, and it worked. After completing the counseling, a follow-up hearing was scheduled, and the rest of the process was relatively painless. The judge asked if we attended counseling and what the outcome was. My attorney stated we had, and that my decision was to proceed with the divorce. Maddie's attorney said Maddie appreciated me attending the sessions, but that it was her wish that we would reconcile. The judge said that doesn't seem possible at this point, so we will proceed with the hearing. And 90 minutes later, it was all over. To Maddie's credit, she gave me space and didn't try contacting me between our counseling sessions, and said everything she had to say in the sessions themselves. The whole time, she never tried blaming me and just kept stating that her primary goal in life was to remain my wife. She even stepped in a few times when the therapist was being difficult and told her that I wasn't the bad guy here. She was. Maddie could have made the entire process much more difficult and expensive, but she didn't, and I appreciated that. As a way of thanking her, I took her out to dinner the day after our divorce was finalized, and then went back to her house, her house, for a nightcap. There we ended up getting physical for the first time in over a year. It was great, and I felt really good about everything afterwards. Now, you may be asking yourself, how does this make sense? Well, for me, I just couldn't stay married to her after she cheated and wouldn't even consider living with her again. But that doesn't mean I don't desire her physically, because I do and likely always will. She understands our relationship going forward will be just a physical thing, kind of like she had with the bartender. She told me she'll accept that for now, but said she wants more and will never stop trying. While I've not yet done so, I do plan to start dating other women, and Maddie knows this. I explained to Maddie if one of those relationships turns into something serious, then I will end our relationship. She told me she understands but doesn't want to think about that and doesn't like it. She also told me she plans to remain monogamous and committed to me even if I do find someone else. While I miss the way things used to be, I like this new arrangement we have, and for the first time in a long time, I feel good about myself and the future. Thank you for immersing yourself in our gripping tale. If you enjoyed the journey, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to bring you more captivating stories. Stay tuned, and thank you for being part of our community.